important they are. You just have to believe that what we are doing is important. And I think that my quilts are not going to save the world. My quilts are not going to make a president not be elected or whatever. They're not going to. But they're not going to hurt either. They're going to make some kind of impact. I know they are. I know they are.
Well, I think they remind us on the day-to-day the care and the compassion that we need to have for each other, because there's not enough of it in the world.
Well, absolutely, yeah.
I don't want you to talk about necessarily the galleries we were talking about but I'm wondering if you could speak a little bit about your relationship to sort of art, quote unquote. I mean, quilts has a history of being sort of not undermined, but doesn't have the same respect and consider it as sort of a serious art. It's a feminine art. It's a domestic art.
Yeah.
And you also create really large work, which is not something it doesn't have the same relationship with commercial practices. So I just wondering, can you talk a little bit about your relationship with capital-A art and how you navigate the world as an artist?
Yeah. Well, I wanted to bring this. This is from the Manitoulin Expositor, 1999. And I was interviewed when I just moved to Manitoulin. Well, and I remembered even then, see the headline? Quilter seeks respect for art form. Because nobody pays attention for my art form. And why don't I stop doing it? Because nobody really wants to put my artwork in their gallery, promote it, write about it in Art Forum or Border Crossings. And even the first sentence, I'm angry and upset that quilts aren't accepted in the art world as real art. Chagrinda artist Judy Martin is quoted as saying in a recent issue of Canadian Quilter magazine. So, yeah. So it's been going on for all my career, and I just don't care.
But that's just where are we? Oh yeah, lots of things to talk about. So let's talk about surface design. You're known for your what's called surface design. The work when you look at the textiles, there's a lot of intense stitching. It's all hand stitched. There's a lot of detail, heavy duty work, and you won awards for your surface design. When I look at them, I don't see the work as a surface. I see the stitch moves between the layers. There's an inner layer that we don't see, and knowing you, there's layers in there that we don't know about. And sometimes, like we said earlier, the text is hidden, or there's other layers, and you cut up and you've layered over, and then there's the back, and often all of your work has the two sides of interest, but then sometimes there's work in the show now where there's actually two. I don't know, it's not two quilts in one, but two sides with two titles. And so there's this interesting relationship to that, and for me it links to what you talk a lot about, sort of the immensity, the inner life, and you sort of seem to bring the inner life into the outer life with your quilts. It's very spiritual, emotional, and then domestic. Your day-to-day life, your life with your children and your family and your work and your journals are moving into the public sphere. When I look at them, I also see sort of the body inside out. I know you're talking about the sky and the clouds and things, but I'm looking at them and I'm seeing like cells and stomach lining, and it's almost like it's very vulnerable. I think the quilt sort of set out. But
so you are responding to them with your body.
Yes, I'm responding to body, and I for me it's this relationship between inner and outer worlds. I want to talk a little bit about your relationships to so-called surface, some of the layers between the works, and how you understand them as, I guess, spatial bodily objects almost.
Well, I'm really glad that a traditional quilt has 3 layers, right? It has the top layer that we spend a lot of time designing and thinking about and putting on the design wall and piecing, and so that's the top. And then a lot of people, that's it for a quilt, and then they put a backing on, and then they put this soft inner layer. So there's the top, there's the soft wool or silk or cotton in the middle. and then there's the back. And because I'm so interested in my inner world, I thought that the back was more interesting sometimes than the front. And in the velvet journals that I talked about before, where there's actual journal paper, the back is raw, unfinished, it has text in it, it has personal journal text. So they're very much front. Like the one that is that Nick photographed, that we had up here, the hearts, is called The Rescuer. And it's all velvet hearts, and it's because it rescues the daily life and also the inner life of the maker. A quilt student, that was Lucy Lepard that said something like that. But getting back to your question, sorry, I'm getting on a sidetrack. I design my top, sometimes I even make dots, paints on the top, painting on the top, but the back is also beautiful now. It doesn't have to be raw and vulnerable. It can sometimes just be a gorgeous thing on its own. But in between, they still have that softness. So a quilt, you take a needle and you go through those 3 layers and you come back up again and you go through. And I think that's what, and because I do it so much, my quilts are really densely stitched. They're not just, oh, I only need to put 1 inch of stitching in. I put so much stitching in. And I think that the amount of going in and out, Anne Carson said that it was a erotic space when the lover and the beloved, and then there's that space in between. That's the erotic space. So the lover is the top, and the beloved is the back, and the erotic space is in the middle. And I joined them all together quite tightly, and I leave marks all over the place. It's very sexy.
You're very sexy. And you have a whole series too, but isn't it the 4 things that happen in bed? Is it person? Did you read something about that? I make
there's four blankets that I've made so far in my poem blankets. Rumi has written about fall ill. That's where the light gets in, is the room, and I put that on an old wrecked blanket. So there's 4 blankets. Most of them have love poems on them because of the things you do in bed. You sleep in bed, you dream in bed, you conceive in bed, you die in bed, you read in bed, you work in bed, you have great ideas while lying in bed, so the bed is so important. And how does this fit with what we're talking about?
I don't know. I don't know, that's what happens. Okay, I'll get the spin of talking because you mentioned dreaming. You talk a lot about dreaming in the show. Maybe say a little bit about the importance of dreaming and that sort of expansiveness that world that's important to you. Because you do write and talk a lot about the dream and dreaming.
Yeah, I think I talk about the inner, the kind of daydream that I get set into when I do my stitching and when I look at the sky. And when anybody looks over a horizon or a valley, something happens inside us. It clicks, and we either realize what the answer is to a question we've been worried about, or we have an idea that we didn't know we were going to have, or we just daydream. And so that kind of emotion is something I really love. And I think it's really important to humans. And I think that's what quilts are ideal for dreaming. So, you pull one over you and you start dreaming, right?
Yeah, and I think you wrote in the notebook over there that right, something about dream. The dreaming is important because dream is hope. That something about being able to, for the world, for the future.
Oh yeah,
dream, right?
It's important to dream because new ideas come from dreams, and that's how quilts and dreams can change the world. I did that one for the Software Junior show. That idea that was in England.
And can you still hear us back?
Yep.
Because I want to make sure that everybody can ask questions.
Yes, we will. So one more question, and then I'll open up. Okay.
If they
So
want
in
to.
addition to you have a very long durational practice, and part of that is your mentorship. And I benefited from that mentorship, and I think there's a kind of a quiet leadership and mentorship that you've had, particularly with women, over the years, and I benefited from that. I think many people have, and it's, I don't know if it's particular to you or particular to sort of the feminist practice or particular to the medium you're working in, but I know you've had a very long mentorship with your daughter April, who's a ceramist and also working dimensionally with materials, clay and textiles, and you've had a formal, informal mentorship, and I don't want to underplay. I want to bring that out to light because I think it's important, not just because I think it's important because you're obviously mother and daughter, but it's not lesser because you're mother and daughter. I think it's a really important mentorship for both of you. And I think we don't talk a lot enough about mentorships and how important they are to artists, and particularly I think to women, and maybe in this particular the disciplines that you're working in. So I'd love if you could speak a little bit about this long mentorship you've had, particularly with April. Sorry.
Well, I have had a long mentorship with April her whole life, yeah. But she's a very, she's pretty special as far as being eager to learn anything. And so even when she was little, she would want to learn things not just from me, but from anybody. And she went over to Gore Bay to learn how to do bobbin lace with Teeny Pell, for example. Yeah, so April and I have done that a lot. But she mentors me as well. Like, I think what you're saying is that women mentor each other. And some are older and some are younger. Some are more educated, some are, and so it's a two-way street. Because I did mentoring when I did the Circle Project. I taught a lot of people how to do basic stitching. And we have Julia here. She was there, one of my Facebook quilters or stitchers. And but with April, for example, she has a degree, and so she comes home and she said, "Want a studio visit, Mom?" And I show her my work, and I really appreciate her take on my work. And it changes my take on my own work, I think. I look at it through younger eyes, and so I think, and when my way of mentoring her is just to let her have all my fabric.
Oh, I think it's more than that.
Well, we're having a show. See, I said, if you want to, she said, Mom, we should have a show at Toronto. And I said, well, nobody's going to want to have a mother-daughter show. It's sort of like what you say. It's diminished, kind of, because it doesn't seem serious. It seems like, and I said, you're going to have to curate it. So she did, and she wrote a proposal, and we're showing it Craft Ontario next summer at 401 Richmond. And you're calling it Water Daughter, right?
Water. It's the working title. Water Daughter.
Water Daughter, yeah. That's my daughter, April. Our